I am the first light that dared to burn without flame, the quiet revolution that changed everything. My creation began in the crisp autumn of 1879, within the sacred halls of Menlo Park, New Jersey, a place history would remember as the world's first industrial research laboratory. Here, in Thomas Edison's invention factory, I felt the trembling hands of master craftsmen shape my delicate form from molten glass and precious metals. The glass blower's breath fogged my transparent shell as he sealed my chamber, trapping the precious vacuum within like capturing lightning in a bottle. Edison himself examined every microscopic detail of my being, his calloused fingers, stained with chemicals and scarred from countless experiments, tracing my brass base with the gentleness of a father holding his newborn child. His sharp grey eyes studied the carbon filament that would become my heartstring, my very soul. This thread of life had been carefully crafted from carbonized bamboo fiber, selected from among thousands of materials tested over 3 years of relentless pursuit. The workshop hummed with electric anticipation, quite literally. Gas lamps flickered along the walls like faithful sentinels, casting dancing shadows across workbenches cluttered with the dreams and failures of innovation. The air hung thick with the perfume of scientific endeavor, sulfur compounds, heated metals, machine oil, and that indescribable scent of determination that seemed to emanate from Edison himself. I could sense the weight of history pressing down. Upon this moment, hundreds of my brothers and sisters who had burned too bright, too briefly, or not at all, their sacrifice lived within my coiled filament, each strand a testament to Edison's unwavering belief that failure was simply another step towards success. Edison's dedicated assistants moved through the laboratory like priests preparing for a sacred ritual. Charles Batchelor, the brilliant English machinist, connected copper wires to my terminals with surgical precision. John Crucy, the Swiss clockmaker whose hands could craft miracles from metal, adjusted the connections with reverence. Ludwig Bohm, the German glassblower, polished my surface until it gleamed like captured starlight. Each man understood they were not merely assembling another experimental device, they were midwifing the birth of the electric age. Outside, the world remained trapped in the amber prison of evening, dependent on candles that guttered in the wind, oil lamps that smoked and stank, and dangerous gas jets that turned homes into potential funeral pyres. Streets fell into darkness at sunset, productivity ceased with daylight, and the night belonged to shadow and uncertainty. But within these walls, something extraordinary was about to unfold, a moment that would reach across time and touch every human life that followed. As they prepared to test me, I felt electricity course through my being for the first time. The sensation defied description. Imagine the first breath of life, the warm embrace of possibility, the gentle awakening of purpose. Edison adjusted the voltage with the patience of a gardener tending a delicate flower, learning from each previous heartbreak. This time would be different. This time, I would prove that electric light could be more than just a fleeting spectacle. It could be a companion to humanity's daily life. The moment arrived, like a held breath, finally released. Edison's weathered hand moved toward the switch, and silence fell over the laboratory like fresh snow. Even the gas flames seemed to hush their hissing, as if they sensed their era was ending. Through the tall windows, I glimpsed the last traces of sunset, painting the New Jersey sky in shades of amber and rose, nature's own farewell to the age of flame. October 21st, 1879, 7:52 in the evening. The moment is etched in my memory like scripture carved in stone. The electrical switch clicked with the finality of destiny. In that instant, the world held its breath. Even the autumn wind seemed to pause outside the laboratory windows. Then, like the first dawn breaking over creation, electricity flowed through me and I blazed to life. My carbon filament erupted in a warm, steady radiance that didn't just push back the darkness. It transformed it into something beautiful. The light I cast wasn't the harsh, sputtering glare of arc lamps that lined city streets, dangerous things that sparked and hummed with barely contained violence. Instead, I offered something revolutionary, a soft, controllable glow that could bring comfort to the humblest cottage and grandeur to the mightiest mansion. The effect on the laboratory was instantaneous and magical. Edison's face, lined with exhaustion from months of 18-hour days, transformed with wonder. His grim concentration melted into joy, then triumph, then an almost childlike delight as he danced a little jig around my workbench. "She's burning. By God, she's really burning," he shouted, his voice cracking with emotion. Each person in the laboratory reacted differently to my light. Bachelor dropped to one knee, as if witnessing a miracle, which perhaps he was. Young Francis Upton, the Princeton-trained mathematician, frantically scribbled calculations, trying to quantify the impossible thing happening before his eyes. Others simply stared, their faces bathed in my golden glow, understanding instinctively that this moment would echo through eternity. Minutes passed like heartbeats, then hours. I continued to shine, steady and true, my carbon filament glowing with the consistency of the North Star. Each moment I remained lit defied the conventional wisdom that said electric lights could never replace gas, never be safe for homes, never be anything more than laboratory curiosities. Word spread through Menlo Park like wildfire. By midnight, a crowd had gathered outside the laboratory windows, their faces pressed against the glass like pilgrims at a shrine. Farmers from the surrounding countryside came on foot and horseback. The local minister arrived, crossing himself, repeatedly certain he was witnessing either a miracle or the devil's work. Telegraph operators abandoned their posts to see this wonder, then rushed back to tap out the news to cities across America. In my glow, these simple people saw the future unfolding. They saw homes freed from the constant danger of open flames. They envisioned cities that never truly slept, their streets safe for evening strolls. They imagined factories that could operate through the night, schools where children could study after sunset, hospitals where surgeons could work with perfect vision at any hour. Sarah Jordan, the widowed boarding house keeper who fed Edison's team, wept openly as she watched me burn. Later she would tell reporters, "I saw in that light the face of progress itself. God forgive me, but I thought I was looking at the future of mankind, and it was beautiful." I burned for 13.5 hours that first night, each moment, writing a new chapter in the book of human possibility. When I finally dimmed, not from failure, but from the deliberate lowering of voltage, the world had irrevocably changed. The age of electric light had begun, and I had been its herald. As the days turned to weeks and weeks to months, I became the silent observer of a transformation that would reshape civilization itself. From my place of honor in Edison's laboratory, I illuminated countless nights of furious innovation. The Wizard of Menlo Park, as the newspapers had begun calling him, worked with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Under my steady glow, he refined my design, creating improved versions that could burn for 600, then 800, then over 1,000 hours. His notebooks filled with sketches and calculations, each page a step toward perfecting what I had started. I watched him test hundreds of materials for filaments. Platinum that cost more than gold, strips of cardboard, threads of silk, bamboo. From Japan, coconut fiber from Brazil. Each failure taught him something new. Each success brought him closer to his ultimate goal, not just creating electric light, but making it affordable for every American home. The parade of visitors was endless and extraordinary. On a snowy December evening, I watched J.P. Morgan himself stride into the laboratory, his presence commanding even in the democratic glow of electric light. The banker studied me with the calculating gaze of a man who could see profit in innovation. "Mr. Edison," he said, his voice carrying the weight of Wall Street, "I believe you have just made darkness obsolete." Within months, Morgan would help fund the Edison Electric Light Company, turning scientific miracle into commercial reality. Scientists came from across the Atlantic: Sir William Preece from England, Professor Helmholtz from Germany, Louis Pasteur from France. Each left shaking their heads in amazement, carrying tales of the American who had bottled lightning and made it dance to human will. The French Academy of Sciences sent a delegation that spent an entire week at Menlo Park, measuring, testing and marveling. Their report would inspire a generation of European inventors to chase their own electrical dreams. But it wasn't just the great minds of the age who came to witness my glow. By Christmas 1879, Edison had opened Menlo Park to public demonstrations. Special trains brought visitors from New York, Philadelphia, and Boston. Families bundled in winter coats walked the snow-covered paths of the complex, their breath forming clouds in the cold air as they moved from building to building, each one glowing with electric wonder. I'll never forget New Year's Eve, 1879. Edison had installed dozens of my descendants throughout Menlo Park, turning the entire complex into a constellation of electric stars. As midnight approached, he threw the master switch and the night exploded with light. The crowd, over 3,000 people from across the country, gasped as one. Some fainted, others cheered. Many wept with joy. From the nearby New York and Long Branch Railroad, engineer James Holgate sounded the locomotive whistle in salute. The blast echoed across the New Jersey countryside, a mechanical fanfare for the electric age. Later, he would tell his grandchildren, "I knew I was witnessing the end of something and the beginning of everything." The gas companies, sensing their doom, fought back with fear and propaganda. They spread rumors about electric shock, about fires caused by dangerous wires, about the unnaturalness of artificial light. But I had already shown that electricity could be safe, reliable, and gentle. My steady glow was the strongest argument against their scare tactics. Newspapers across America published detailed descriptions of my inner workings. The New York Herald called me the sunshine of the future. The London Times wrote, "The American Edison has achieved what the greatest minds of Europe deemed impossible." Even the skeptical Scientific American admitted, "We have seen the future of illumination, and it burns with a steady electric flame." Today, I rest in the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. My working days long past, but my purpose eternal. Through the climate-controlled glass of my display case, I've watched the world transform beyond Edison's wildest imaginings. Generations of schoolchildren have gazed upon my simple form with a mixture of reverence and puzzlement. How could something so modest have changed everything so completely? Their teachers explain about filaments and currents, about innovation and perseverance. But the truth goes deeper than any textbook can capture. I've witnessed the evolution of light itself. I've seen my descendants grow from simple incandescent bulbs to fluorescent tubes that hummed with efficiency, then to compact lights that twisted like DNA helixes, and finally to LED arrays that last for decades while sipping electricity like dewdrops. I've watched light merge with information technology, becoming fiber optic cables that carry conversations and data at the speed of thought. Across ocean floors and continents, through the museum's great windows, I observe a world I helped create. Cities sprawl like jewelry scattered across the night, each light a descendant of mine. Skyscrapers pierce the darkness, their windows glowing with the dreams and ambitions of millions. Highways snake through the landscape, marked by rivers of headlights and taillights, beautiful and purposeful as arteries in a living body. I've seen electric light bring justice to the world. In courtrooms, truth emerges under fluorescent disclosure. In operating theaters, surgeons save lives under light so bright they banish every shadow. In classrooms, from the Arctic to the Amazon, children learn and grow, their potential unlimited. By the setting sun, in laboratories around the globe, researchers push the boundaries of human knowledge under illumination that never flickers, never fails. But my legacy extends far beyond mere photons and lumens. I represent something profoundly human, the refusal to accept limitation, the faith that nature's laws can be understood and harnessed for the betterment of all. Edison didn't simply invent a better light. He illuminated the path toward a future where human ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. In quiet moments, when the museum closes and darkness falls, I sometimes feel a phantom current flowing through my ancient filament. I remember that October evening when I first blazed to life, when darkness gave way to light, when the impossible became inevitable. I think of all the lives touched by the simple act of pressing a switch, lovers reading poetry by lamplight, doctors saving children in midnight emergencies, artists capturing inspiration in studios that never know sunset. I think of Edison himself, resting now in the same peaceful darkness he spent his life conquering. In his later years, he would often visit my descendants, running his fingers along their warm glass bulbs, a proud father watching his children illuminate the world. "I didn't invent the light bulb," he would say with characteristic humility. "Light already existed. I simply gave it a new way to shine." And perhaps that's the greatest lesson I can teach. That within each of us burns a filament of possibility, waiting for the right current to bring it to life. Every human innovation, from the wheel to the internet, begins with someone refusing to accept that things must remain as they are. We all carry the power to push back darkness in its many forms: ignorance, hatred, despair, indifference. In my glow, you see not just light, but hope incarnate. Not just illumination, but inspiration made manifest. For in every lamp that shines, today, in every LED that brightens a child's room, every screen that connects distant hearts, every beacon that guides travelers home, lives the spirit of that autumn evening when one modest bulb dared to burn bright and prove that the human spirit is the most powerful current of all. When you flip a switch tonight, remember this: you're not just turning on a light. You're continuing a conversation with the darkness that began over 140 years ago in a simple wooden building in New Jersey. And in that small act, you participate in humanity's greatest ongoing experiment, the transformation of night into day, of fear into comfort, of impossible into inevitable. The greatest revolutions often begin with the smallest lights. In darkness, one candle is a miracle. In history, one incandescent moment can illuminate eternity.